my name is Letitia Pennington and welcome to Lifetime Partners, where we grow together. And today we have Ben Azadi here with us, all the way from the USA. He's currently the founder of the Keto Camp and survivor of lifestyle changes. So Ben, you have authored 4 books and you bring thought leaders around the world of health and ketosis and intermittent fasting and so much more. You are associated with names like Ben Greenfield, Dr. Jason Fong, Daniel Pompa. And so thank you so much for joining us today. I know you have had a massive weekend and a big week. So I'd like you to today, just for us and the viewers here, to really just tell us a little bit about your health journey. You know, today is really getting to know you. And we will talk about your work as well, but let's just start with your health journey. Tell us some history about that. And, even just how you got into the health industry itself. Was it from school or was it something that you adopted during the way? So do take the floor. And after that, we'll kick it off with some Q&As. So welcome.
Absolutely. And thank you, Letitia, for having me here on your show. Yeah. So growing up here in the USA, like you said, Miami Beach, Florida, I was pretty much left to my own devices. My parents were divorced. My mom worked 3 jobs. So I had all this time on my hands and I was a really bad kid. I would skip school and I would eat a really poor nutritional lifestyle. I was following the standard American diet, which we know could lead to some problems, and it did for myself. So growing up here in Miami, I was overweight and then obese. I was addicted to drugs and video games and sugar and food. And I really had a really unhealthy lifestyle. So this transferred into my adulthood, where I found myself back in 2008 being a obese man at the age of 24 years old. I was 24, which is young, but I felt like I was 85 years old. My hormones were wonky, my energy levels were crappy. So I was physically obese. I weighed 250 pounds, but I was also mentally obese. I had toxic thoughts, depression, suicide, and I knew I needed to figure things out because my life was headed down the wrong direction and it was going there fast. So for me, what changed was hitting rock bottom. My girlfriend at that time broke up with me and I was just so devastated. I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't ever do any kind of self-development work. And I wanted to actually end my life. I was tired of hurting. I was tired of being in pain and being depressed. So I explored ways to end my life. And thankfully, I never really went through with it because I would think about my mother and the devastation she would have to endure if I took my own life. So I ended up reading books. I started to read books for the first time ever. I started to read books from authors like Dr. Wayne Dyer and Bob Proctor and Earl Nightingale and Jim Rohn and all these incredible leaders and amazing people who have done some great things in their life. And it helped me take ownership. For the first time ever, I took responsibility. And that word responsibility is so important, especially in this day and age, because a lot of people are putting they're not taking responsibility. They're doing the opposite and they're putting their health and their happiness and everything into the hands of other people and into the government and other things, but we are actually responsible. So for the first time ever, I started to understand that I need to take responsibility. And that word is important because that is your ability to respond. At that time, my ability to respond to life was really poor. I would play the victim game and I would blame my genetics and my family members and the economy and whatever it was. But the books really helped empower me to understand that I am responsible. And in that moment, I became the victor of my destiny and I stopped being the victim of my history. So I started to actually focus on my health and exercise and think better thoughts and lead to other books and other authors. And 9 months from that moment of taking responsibility, Letitia, I went from 250 pounds down to 170 pounds. I went from 34% body fat down to 6% body fat, size 38 waist to size 30. So I achieved this physical transformation, but the most important thing I believe I achieved was a mental transformation. I carved out a mental 6-pack, and that's what got me started in the health space. I became a personal trainer. I used to go to my clients and train them, and they would come to me and I would train them. I ended up opening up a CrossFit gym eventually here in Miami. And then I became certified as a health coach with functional diagnostic nutrition. So that's where things kind of got started with me. And then along the way, I've studied a lot of the best names in the business. And I got to work with a lot of the best names. Dr. Daniel Pompa, like you mentioned earlier, I work with him closely. So yeah, that's a little bit of my backstory and where I came from to where I am today with you.
Wow, that's a massive journey.
Yeah,
Thank you for sharing that with us here today. Um, that word responsibility that you used, I believe this is part of that. So I appreciate you sharing and, giving your time here today for us as well. So,
absolutely.
yeah, it's interesting. I didn't realize you went through that pathway to get to where you are today. So, yeah, I mean, you talk about those times when it was hard. Some of the questions here that I have is really for people to inspire people to take action, yeah, because that's really what we're trying to achieve here. And we go through those dark moments that you said. So, was there something specific for you that really kept you going? That really pushed you through, like that you didn't want to stop, like you just kept going. And there's always that moment when I talk to people that there was something that was always triggering that. So what really was that for you? What really kept you going through it all, that you didn't want to give up?
Yeah, well, I knew how bad I felt being hitting rock bottom, and I
Mm.
was so depressed, and I would do anything to get out of that space. So I just started to make some small tweaks, and I started to develop momentum.
Yeah.
And I believe small tweaks lead to giant peaks. So I started to stack these little habits and every single day, and I would build from those habits, and then I would change my environment, which is very important because I had a toxic environment. So I would start to cut people out of my life, introduce new people in, and I believe we do become our environment. So that's so important for your audience along the way with your journey. If you don't have people in your life who are charging you up or supporting you, there needs to be some things that need to change because we do become our environment. I always say that if you hang out with street dogs all day, you're going to catch fleas, right? So you want to hang out with people who are going to actually uplift you. So that's something I did. I started to stack the habits, gain momentum, change my environment, and I just kept pushing forward.
Excellent. Yeah, so there was three big things there. Small steps, environment, and just having that right team around you as well to support you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. So, as far as successes go, like you've got so much success at the moment. You're really taking off with this new book, but you've written four, so that's quite impressive. Over a short amount of space, or even just over time. So, would you class that maybe as one of your greatest successes during your health journey? I mean, I know obviously the weight loss is a big thing, but sometimes there's something that really stands out that really, when you look back over the last sort of 5-10 years, you're like, that moment, it was that moment, that you felt that, that you had succeeded.
Yeah, well, it's a good question. My definition for success is I adopted it from Earl Nightingale, and he said, success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So that word ideal is an idea, a goal that you have fallen in love with. So the definition here is that as long as, so you first of all determine what's important to you. So I have to determine what's important to me, which is studying, educating myself, and then educating the world essentially. And then start to create habits and align your calendar with that goal. So you set a big goal, a goal that you love, which is an ideal. And as long as you're closing the gap between where you are now and where that goal is, you're successful. So for me, it's as long as I'm following through with that and I'm doing the things that I love to do and I'm closing the gap, I'm successful. But the minute that I stop doing that, I become unsuccessful. So as long as I continue to do the things that I love to do, for me, that's what really lights me up more than anything else. I get out of bed and I'm just excited to see what's going to happen today. I get to speak with Letitia in a different part of the world. I get to talk about this book or that transformation. So that's for me very, very important.
Excellent. So yeah, it's really just that. So definitely self-improvement was one that I took away from that. And
Yes.
definitely just appreciation really for every day that you're alive, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Amen.
great. Okay, so you are currently coaching, so you do take people through this process that you have obviously adopted yourself, and that you study and researched, and obviously that's currently what you're doing. But just a few questions in regards to your clients. People don't always do as you ask, or as you know that they are supposed to do, you know, like. So as a coach, really, the question is how best do you actually handle those situations? So we all come up against adversity, but as coaches, we all adopt our own way of teaching. So yeah, I mean, people that really aren't following the process, and you're mentoring them that through that, you know, how would you handle a situation like that? Um,
Yeah, they need to, it's important for them to get clear on their why. I believe that reasons come before results. So what is your why? And your why is going to be very different than somebody else's why. And it's not as shallow as, I just want to lose weight. I just want to have more energy. But where is that showing up in your life? Is it because you don't have the confidence that you once had? You have extra weight, so you have less confidence? Is it that you want to have more energy for your family? You want to be there for your kids? They're growing up, they have more energy, and you can't keep up with them. I mean, it's important to determine what that why is. And when you have that reason, then the results will come. So when you have the challenges or the roadblocks or the speed bumps, keep your why in front of you. You can even write it down when you find out what that why is, and really peel back the onion there, find out what the why is, and then keep that why in front of you. You could write it on a sticky note and put it on your computer monitor. You can put it on your bathroom mirror. You can put it on your refrigerator. So it's important to keep that in front of you, and that's going to keep you going. And then have a coach, have an environment that's going to actually encourage you along the way, because success, there's no straight path to success. It's going to be ups and downs, ups and downs. But as long as you don't quit, you're never going to fail. It's only when you quit and give up that you're actually failing. But if you don't quit, you don't want to give up on the goal. You might want to give up on the plan, but not the goal to get there. You might need to just navigate and have a different plan, but you just got to keep pushing forward.
Awesome. Great answer. And yeah, just staying on the path, and like you say, it may deviate a little bit, but as long as you've got the right people, then you won't deviate too much and you'll come back. So that's great. Biggest failures, have you, I don't like the word failure, but even if it was just something recently, if you can think of something in your life or business that you're like, damn, or that didn't quite go the way that you had planned. And even like what you're talking about, sometimes we're on that goal, but it comes off, and I sort of see that it's not as a failure, but you're like, okay, and really that's how we learn, isn't it? It's those lessons that we learn. So, the question is what would be one of the biggest failures that you've had maybe over the last 5 to 10 years that you've learned from, that we could learn from as well?
Yeah. So exactly. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, right? So for me, it was when my dad got sick in 2013. He had type 2 diabetes, which is a lifestyle disease, and it was treated with medication. So there was a big mismatch there. But I didn't understand the disease too much, and I put a lot of my faith in conventional medicine. So he ended up getting a stroke, a massive stroke, and he got paralyzed, and then he ended up losing his life 9 months after that. So the lesson that I learned from that is the responsibility word, right? I should have taken more of a responsibility to search alternative methods to the allopathic care he was given. We shouldn't have put all of our faith in conventional doctors. They weren't really looking at the cause, they were looking at just treating symptoms. So that's something that I learned. My dad had to suffer. I suffered. My family suffered for 9 months, and that was unavoidable. So for somebody who has a family member, or maybe it's you, who's going through something similar, it is not required. A medication is not required or let me rephrase that. There's a time and place for medication, but if you're just treating the symptoms, you're never going to get to the cause. Once you get to the cause, you could heal the body. Diabetes is a symptom. Cancer is a symptom. Obesity is a symptom. Being overweight is a symptom. It's not the actual problem. It's a result of the problem. So find out what the cause is, remove the interference, and the body will heal. I know that if I applied what I teach this day to my dad back then, he would be with me today. So that's something that I learned, and I make sure I get it out to the world because it's unavoidable suffering, and we don't have to go through that.
Wow. Thank you again for sharing that story. It's never easy when we lose a loved one or a family member, and it's easy to take responsibility on our own shoulders as well. But, as they say, can only lead a horse to water. And after that, they have to make those steps themselves. So
Right.
yeah, that is your, you're doing that now. You're living that that lesson. So that's really great.
Thank you.
And yeah, yeah. Um, you know, I was going to ask you what was the turning point or that fork in the road for you, but really you've explained a lot of that already, and you can hear that through your journey and what that purpose was and why you're so passionate to share a lot of this information now, and why we're on this call today. So you know, um, was there? You always hear of people saying that they had that epiphany moment as well. So I know you had mentioned about your why, really knowing what your why was. And because of where you were at that time, that really pulled you out. But I know along that journey, there's more epiphany moments as you go along, especially when you start writing and you start researching, you was there any one big moment, or one that stands that you remember, that comes to mind through that pathway or that journey that you've been taking so far?
Well, what's really inspiring is that when you start to get the information out there via books or a podcast like this or just speaking, whatever it is, and then you see people apply it and then email you or comment with like what they've done to reverse their diabetes, to get off the insulin, to get off the medication, to really reverse these really serious conditions. That's fuel. It's like oxygen to the soul. So, and that's happening all the time. I mean, I can't even. I'm so grateful to see that, and it's just a testament, not to me, but to the human body. The human body is incredible. It's capable of healing as long as you continue to identify interference and remove it. So that adds fire to the why. The why is to get the information out there actually to 1 billion people. I want to be able to serve and educate and help 1 billion people. And it all stemmed from my dad's death. Before that, I was treating this like a hobby, and then my dad passed away, and now I treat it like a purpose and a duty and an obligation. So just seeing all the emails and the comments and the response from people that are applying this information is just fuel to my why.
Well done. That's amazing. Um, yeah, so that's a pretty big moment and reason for the whole lot. Um, as far as your brand's concerned, your keto camp, that's kind of amazing. Like, how long have you been running that for now? Is that something you've done right back in your PT days, or is it really just progressed over the last few years?
It's evolved. So during my personal trainer days, I had another company called Shred Fat. I started that in 2011. And then about 3 years ago, I rebranded that to Keto Camp. So Keto Camp was the rebranding of that. So, and the reason is because I love keto. I got into it in 2013, 2014, along with fasting.
Yeah.
And I decided to actually shift away from the Shred Fat brand to the Keto Camp brand. So the brand is fairly new, 3 years, but I've been in the space since 2008, 2009.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, no, and there's so many different, I think when people first start researching and wanting to change their lives, there's so many different diets and fads and things out there. But as I've spoken with you before, really this is a lifestyle change. This isn't something that you just do for 6 to 12 months. It really is
Right.
something that you have to really learn and adopt as part of your lifestyle. Is that correct? Yeah.
Exactly. We got to look at it from a lifestyle lens, not just some sort of quick weight loss program or weight loss diet, because keto is not a diet technically. Keto is a metabolic process that we could tap into and allow the body to heal. So exactly, we want to make sure we're looking at health from a lifestyle lens and not just some quick results. So what's called microwave thinking. People want instant results. But if you want longevity and health, you got to do it the right way. And it takes that lens of looking at it from a lifestyle, not a fad diet.
Fantastic. Yes, and I've listened to you speak a couple of times now on Clubhouse. Thank you for joining us there. It's such a
Yeah.
great space to really share and get this knowledge out there to people that are really willing and wanting to learn and listen. So it's
Yeah, it's been fun on Clubhouse with you. You're a good host and moderator on there. So thank you
thank
for
you.
inviting me.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, well, are you happy if I ask some personal questions or, you know?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, well, first up, congratulations on your engagement. I saw that
Thank you.
on your page. So everything keeps popping up, but she obviously had no idea that that was going to happen. So
Yeah, it was a
well
good
done.
surprise. Yeah, she was shocked. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, if we go back, maybe even when you were younger, before you actually started your journey, who would you say was your biggest childhood mentor or teacher, as such, or even just senior that you looked up to,
I was a big fan of sports growing up,
Yeah.
so it would be like maybe Michael Jordan or any of like the athletes. I would watch a lot of sports growing up. There was a football player, Daryl Green. So yeah, it was pretty much sports
Like
related back
sports
then.
idols and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you weren't a movie buff then, not really.
Um, not I wouldn't say a movie buff. I did love movies, but not really a movie buff. No.
No. Okay. All right. So what makes you happy currently in your life and daily living? What's that one thing? What is that?
Yeah, well, happiness is an inside job, right? So a lot of people think they what is the road to happiness, but there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way, right? So what makes me happy? Well, I should say this. I make myself happy when I speak on stage. I love speaking on stage. It's one of my highest values. Doing interviews like this, getting, creating content, thinking of a new video I want to create and studying for it and putting it together and then releasing it and seeing how it does. These are things that make me happy. And of course, seeing people transform their lives, but with the emails I get and the comments, all of that, I experience happiness. And spending time with my dog who's sleeping here right now next to
Oh,
me,
yeah.
going with, yeah, what?
Oh, I didn't know. You've got a dog. So, like, yeah, what breed is?
Yeah, my dog is sleeping right here. I have an 80-pound dog. He sleeps all day. So I'm happy when I'm with him, with my fiance now, going for long walks. And yeah, these are things that make me happy.
Cool. Excellent. And what would you say would be your greatest quality? I mean, what's your
Greatest quality, and I said make me happy. I should take that back. Those are things that help me experience happiness, but I'm the one
exactly
making myself
like you
happiness.
did
Yeah.
say, you like happiness is an inside job. So you either are
Exactly.
happy, and then it's those external or internal things that create that.
Exactly. So I wanted to clarify that because I caught myself there. What my qualities?
Yeah.
I guess my like enthusiasm
Yeah.
and attitude. I guess those could be my qualities. Yeah, and attitude and enthusiasm.
Yeah. And what about one of your weaknesses then? What would you say?
My weaknesses. I
If you have any.
tend. Oh, I have. Yeah, I do. I do.
Of
I would say that I get I compare myself sometimes to other people, and I catch myself when I'm doing it. So that's definitely a weakness. I don't want to compare myself to anybody. I think it's important not to do so and just only compare yourself to who you were yesterday. So that's a weakness. It's been a weakness of mine, like self-limiting beliefs that creep in, but I've been doing a better job at catching them and stopping them.
Awesome. All right. Well, enough personal questions. I won't put you on the spot anymore. Really, your program, you've got these latest books. I know your Keto Flex, you've just really had your first book release. Was that correct this weekend? So just tell us a little bit more about the book, really, and what's in it. Like, why would I buy that book right now?
Yeah, I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
Just released yesterday
Yep.
before this recording. So it's called Keto Flex, and it is 311 pages of, I believe, keto and fasting gold. In the book, I outline my four main pillars to really mastering keto and fasting for a lifestyle. And the reason it's called Keto Flex is because I love ketosis. I think keto is great, but I don't think long term ketosis is great. I think it's important to teach the body to burn fat instead of sugar and rebuild that metabolism and achieve metabolic flexibility. And then when you do that, then you start flexing in and out of ketosis, similar to how our ancestors did it. So I teach you how to do that. It's a 60-day protocol, and then you achieve that flex pillar. There's a chapter in here all about how to do keto and fasting for women, whether you're a cycling woman or a postmenopausal woman. I outline that week by week. There's a chapter on carnivore, a chapter on sleep, and of course, I sprinkle in some self-development principles. So I'm really excited about this book. I believe it's going to change so many lives. It's very easy to read, and there is some scientific research in there, but it's very practical to apply it. Dr. Daniel Pompa wrote the foreword.
Yeah.
It's been endorsed by so many great people. Dr. Thomas DeLauer, Dr. Jason Fung, Dr. Ben Bickman, Dr. Mindy Peltz, and several other leaders and scientists in our space. So I'm excited about it. I believe this is going to be one of the best books on keto ever written. And it's available right now on Kindle and on paperback. And then in a couple months, it'll be available on Audible as well.
Perfect. That's brilliant. Yeah, you're right. There isn't any updated books, I don't think, released lately. So Jason Fung, Dr. Jason Fung, I've watched a lot of his podcasts and research. So he really is gold when you start listening to the science behind it. So
yeah,
well done and congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would love to obviously do a lot more of these with you in the future. Ben, I know there's more that we can actually go into science today. We really just wanted to get to know you and your journey and how that's progressed. So, yeah, I mean, let's keep the books open and hopefully we can do a lot more of these and talk a little bit more actually about the science of what you're currently doing. So that would be great.
That sounds wonderful. I'd be happy to come back and talk a little bit more about the science and geek out with you. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. So, is there any last words here today, Ben?
Last words are that, just the body is amazing. If you could just do the three things, and I talk about this in the beginning of the book, three things to healing the body. Number one, identify interference. What is interfering with your body? Number two, remove that interference.
Sorry, carry on.
Carry on.
Yeah.
And then number three is to allow your body to heal. And your body has an innate intelligence within it, which is capable of healing. We just need to activate it. And if you follow those three steps, you activate this inner physician. So understand that you're incredible. You could heal. Apply the information. I really hope you get the book and you enjoy the book. You could get it on Amazon today.
Well done. Cool. And if anyone does want to reach out to me, if they need any details or any links, this will be, there will be a link in the comments section, so people will know to just be able to go straight there and purchase that as well. But going back to number one, just quickly, interference. Are there three steps to interference? What?
No, so identifying interference is usually more than three steps, especially for most people. So for example, what does that mean? If you're eating high carbs every day, every 2 to 3 hours, there's interference. You're a sugar burner, creating a lot of inflammation. So the first thing is to identify that and then work on removing that interference by going more to being a fat burner and doing keto. So that's one example right there. Another example could be you're eating every 2 to 3 hours, practice fasting. So identify interference, remove the interference, and there's toxicity, there's toxic thoughts, there's sleep. So there's so many things we could identify, and then we could start working on it once we have the awareness.
Yeah. So I like how you said that it's thoughts as well. So it can be, it's not just a physical, it can be an emotional tie to that too.
And it's usually the emotional is actually probably the majority of that piece. So yes.
Well done. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Ben, for joining us today. I look forward to some future podcasts with you. Yes, I know. Have you got anything coming up? Have you got any seminars coming up in your area? I know. No.
Oh yeah, so I have. I'm going to be speaking at an event called Keto Palooza in San Diego, California, in August, and then an event called Keto Expo in Las Vegas in October, and then another event, the Biohacking Congress in Miami. So those are in the books right now. I'll be at all those events.
Excellent. Well, it's so great we have these type of platforms here with Zoom and we can tune in with you now. There's so much happening in that space too. I'd love to have you here in New Zealand. There's so many people saying we want to come, so who knows what's going to happen in the future. We may just have to have some big health fest over here or something. So
that would be awesome. Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, Ben. And again, thank you for sharing. I appreciate your time, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you for the awesome interview, Letitia. I appreciate you.
All right.